Chapter 247 Halal Rape vs. Haram Rape, Part 7. The innocent girl who had been kidnapped and raped by Al-Wayash and his gang is known as Mona Salah al-Din. As Omar said to Shakush, Mona is very beautiful to look at. To be a beautiful is not a crime, for beauty is a virtue and a blessing. For Mona, her beauty is spoiled by the evil men who kidnapped and brutishly raped her. For the virtue and the blessing are marred with the vice and the curse of the crime. That is how the society looked unto the matter. No young man will marry a girl who is subjected to such a brutal rape. Even though everyone called her the innocent girl, in the corner of his mind, he pictured her as destroyed and her beauty spoiled. She is like a rose that had been plucked by the wrong hands. Even though she remained for short time in those dirty hands, they had made her stink with dirt and shame and turned her into a rotten rose. On that day Mona is lying on her bed and holding a copy of the Al-Gadarif Times. She read her recent interview with the journalist Shams al-Din many times. She began to reflect on her sad story. Her mind is clouded with many dark thoughts. She knew that before she is young and beautiful and many young men wished to marry her. But today, she looked at herself as a young girl who met with a fatal accident that resulted in amputating her legs and hands and blinding her eyes. Who will marry such a severely handicapped girl? People will only pity her. Mona hated the 6 criminals who had viciously raped her and permanently destroyed her life. She wished she would have died on that Black Friday. She cursed her beauty which attracted to her such evil men. She wished that, instead she is born blind, deaf, dumb, and ugly girl. Mona had been taught by her conservative parents that love is evil. She is told many times, that love will cause the girl to fall into disgrace. Many girls lost their purity and virginity and brought shame to their families because they are deceived in love. Mona kept herself away from the reach of many young men who tried to win her heart. She is recently engaged to her cousin Kamal. He is supposed to marry her after completing her 12th standard. Unfortunately, Kamal had changed his mind and is not ready to marry her after he came to know about the rape. He considered her as an irresponsible girl. How can she agree to sit in a car where there are 5 men unknown to her? Why did she remain silent and not scream for help when they kidnapped her? Mona tried to explain to him that they had taken her by force in their car and did not give her a chance to scream for help, but Kamal did not believe her. So, Mona knew in her case only an old man with many wives might agree to marry her. She wished that she can remain single all her life, then be married to an old man. First she thought of committing suicide, but the fear of going to hell had filled her heart. She knew her parents are anxious to get rid of her as soon as they can. The first old man that will come along will be welcomed. Moreover, Mona wished that she can be able to erase those dark memories from her mind. For her mind always recollected to her that painful experience by day, and at night it reproduced it as a horrific nightmare. She remembered how she pleaded for mercy before Al-Wayash. She fell at his feet and kissed them. She told him to consider her as his daughter. She did everything to move his heart, but he is a man with a hardened heart. He did not give heed to her screaming. He tore her clothes in pieces. He twisted her hands and brought them behind her back until he forced her to fall down. After he forced her on her knees, he fell on her delicate body and crashed it with his heavy weight. She is like an innocent lamb that fell in the claws of a wild beast. His long fingernails scratched her face, neck, shoulders, and breasts. He pulled her hair and beaten her body. She became like a helpless prey in the hands of a hungry beast. He is a sadistic beast man who enjoyed sex by torturing his victim. What he had done to her after that she hated to recollect. He defiled her purity. She felt she became so dirty after he repeatedly raped her. When his 5 gangsters likewise had savagely raped her, she wished that they would have poured a gasoline on her and set her body ablaze. They continued to rape and abuse her body throughout the night. During those difficult hours, she wished the ceiling will have fallen and killed her along with her captors and rapists. While Mona is recollecting those difficult hours, she heard the doorbell ring. Her mother opened the door. After a few seconds she saw 3 young men approaching her. She recognized among them the journalist who interviewed her recently. From the smile on his face she understood he is going to reveal some exciting news. "Mona," shouted Shams al-Din, "I have a pleasant surprise for you. Here is the great man who had saved your life." "The man that saved my life," said Mona surprisingly, "what has remained of my life to be saved by him?" "I mean to say, this is the good citizen who informed the police authority and directed them to the crime scene." Mona turned to Walid and said softly to him, "You have done more harm to me than the criminals. If it is not for you, I will have died on that Black Friday and no one will have known about my shame. I will have suffered for a few hours and died, but because of you, I am going to suffer all the rest of my life." She burst into tears. Her mother too began to cry loudly. The 2 friends bowed their heads with tears rolling down their cheeks. Shams al-Din came close to her and said, "Have you forgotten what I have said to you last night? Please Mona, think about the future and forget the past." "I have no future," said Mona while crying, "I have lost all hopes in life. My life is like a glass that fell on rocks and has shattered into pieces. Even God can't mold it again." "You are wrong Mona," said Salah softly, "you are condemning yourself for a crime that you have not done." The innocent girl looked at Salah with eyes flooded with tears. "At least the society and the law have condemned you abusers," continued Salah sadly. When Salah saw everybody is looking at him, he continued to speak in a loud voice. "But my fiancé's kidnappers are protected by the law and her abuser is justified by the society. She had also been kidnapped by 5 men and taken by force to an old man. Imagine a girl of 15 years old is forced to marry a man who is 70 years old. Now tell me who is supposed to lose hope in life, you or my fiancé?" Mona didn't reply to Salah's question, but she continued to look at him while her tears running like hot water down her cheeks. "Mona, believe me, you have not come to the end of your life. You are still young and beautiful and with a future. Study hard and forget about the past. When you enter the university you will find young men of your age with open minds. Among them, I am sure you will find a life partner who will make you forget your past. Together you can plan your future life." When Salah spoke those encouraging words, Mona's lips showed a faint smile. "I am the one who's supposed to lose hope in life, but I will never give up. I will wait for my fiancée all the days of my life." "You are very loyal to her." "Because I love her. I will fight every battle for her sake." "But how can you expect the old man to release her again? For she is married to him." "I don't recognize that as a marriage. It is a mere conspiracy. As a lawyer I have to prove to the criminal court that is not a lawful marriage. It is the same as yours. It is also a kidnap and rape crime. The only difference is that, what has happened to you is a condemned crime, but what had befallen my girlfriend is a justified crime. You had been kidnapped by 5 criminals and taken to their wicked master, whereas my girlfriend had been kidnapped from her house by 5 policemen and taken to the old man at Khartoum. How can the policeman kidnap a girl from her house? The Sharia court passed the obedience sentence against my girlfriend and sent 5 policemen to transfer her by force to her so-called husband. The mu'allana of the Sharia court recognized a conspiracy as a valid marriage. How can you prove the marriage is a conspiracy? You are the only person who can help us to prove that." "Me," said Mona surprisingly, "how can that be possible? I am the most defeated and helpless person on earth." "You have come to the wrong person. Believe me Mona, there is no person in the whole world that can help us except you. I don't expect you to understand me, until you hear the entire story from my friend Walid Hamza. He is the good citizen who saved your life. Walid narrated the entire story to Mona from the time he discovered the crime, until they decided to seek her help. When he finished, Mona looked at Shams al-Din and said, "No wonder that the police inspector is not in agreeing with my statement about the mysterious al-Sahir." "Yes, you are right," said Shams al-Din. "Now Mona, we want you to come with us to Omar's house and identify him as the criminal al-Sahir," said Salah. "How can you expect me to come face to face with that notorious criminal? He will do anything to escape capture. He might harm me or otherwise kill me. You are not going to face him all alone. There will be with you at least 5 cops who are fully armed and ready for any possible physical encounter with the criminal al-Sahir." "In that case I am ready to go," said Mona. A week is left for the Al Maidan police station to be transferred to the Roana area. The main reason is the difference of the moral behaviors of the inhabitants of the two localities. Since the police station is established in Al Maidan, 90% of the complaints are made by Roana people, and 10% by the High Al Sora residents. Al Maidan is considered a peaceful area. The police sergeant Mohammed Abdul Nabi is busy in sorting things, for he must submit his report to the police headquarters before the shifting should take place. Any person that came to him, he sent him away, for the police station ceased to function officially in that area. While he is engaged in drafting his report, he heard a knocking on the door. He stopped his writing and looked up. He saw 3 young men and a young beautiful girl standing at the door. Since he became a policeman 25 years ago, he had never seen such a beautiful girl come to lodge a complaint. He mistook their approach and said politely to them, "If you are looking for the kindergarten, it is on the opposite side. You just turn back and cross the road and you will see written in big golden letters, kindergarten for little children." He then bowed his head and continued writing his report. "Excuse me, uncle," said Mona softly, "we have come to see you." "Please, young girl," said the sergeant politely, "if you are those boys and girls who call themselves social workers and go around disturbing people in their offices, I have no time for you. For today I am very busy." "Uncle," said Mona smilingly, "we are neither visitors to the kindergarten nor social workers, but we have a serious complaint to make." "A complaint to make? Against whom? Against me or against one of my men?" "Not at all, sir," said Salah, "it is against a notorious criminal who lives in this area." "Not today. I have told you, that today I am very busy. Please come another day." "But the matter is very urgent. It cannot be postponed for another day. Go to another police station." "Am I the only policeman in the city?" "Sir," said Salah, "we are offering you a golden opportunity to be famous and highly promoted by your seniors." "Who told you that by arresting a criminal a policeman becomes famous, or receive favor by his seniors? I am dragging every day 2 or 3 criminals to the lockup, but never have I become famous, even in this small locality." "Sir," said Shams al-Din, "have you heard about the famous journalist Shams al-Din Haddad?" "Yes, I have. In fact, I had read yesterday his recent interview with the innocent girl. I am the one and this is the innocent girl." When the sergeant heard those words, his face showed a great surprise and hence he stood on his feet and shook hands with them. "I am glad to see you face to face, my daughter. I am very much concerned about your problem. Thanks to God who saved you from those human beasts." "Thank you, uncle," said Mona softly. "But, I understood from the interview that you still disagree with the police inspector Hussein the Great concerning the criminal al-Sahir." "That is why we are here, sir," said Salah. "I don't understand what you mean." "I mean to say the notorious criminal al-Sahir is still at liberty. Inspector Hussein the Great is in charge of this case. Will you please read these 2 confessional papers, which are written by the criminal Omar, who is also known as al-Sahir." When the sergeant read the 2 papers, he shook his head and hit his hands together and said, "I can't believe Inspector Hussein the Great can do such a thing. The huge bribe that had been paid by Omar's brother-in-law, Mr. Osman Al-Taib, to Police Inspector Hussein had blinded his eyes, said Walid Hamza. Where is the evidence that these papers are written by the criminal Al-Sahir? For the person who had signed these papers had stated his name as Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Gabir. Sir, said Shams al-Din, this is the good citizen who directed the police authority to the house where the crime took place. How can you prove to me he is the good citizen? Sir, said Salah impatiently, if you want us to prove to you everything now, there will be no need for a judge and a lawyer. I, myself, is a recognized lawyer. My humble advice to you is to accompany us to Omar's house, and the innocent girl Mona Salah al-Din will identify him as one of the criminals who had kidnapped and abused her. When that done, your duty as a police officer is to arrest him and drag him to the lockup. After that, the police authority will extract the truth from him at the interrogation room. The Sergeant Mohammed Abdul Nabi suddenly became serious. He stood on his feet and ordered his 4 men to be fully equipped for the arrest. He hung on the door a big signboard, where has written it in capital letters, "This police station is officially transferred to Roana. No further complaint is accepted here." When the conspirators had discovered that Badr Raya had disappeared from her house, Mr. Osman Al-Taib insisted that the money should be given to the blackmailer and that he should be told the girl will be handed over to him as soon as she is found. Mu'allana Sheikh Marzouk, Haj Mohammed, and Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali went to the bank and withdrew the amount and went to Intisar's house. Upon their arrival, they are told by the mother that her son and 2 daughters are not at home. The guests insisted to wait for them until they return. The 3 conspirators hesitated to reveal to the mother the purpose of their visit. They suspected that the old woman might not be in the picture of the blackmailing business. Besides that, their wicked leader, the evil old man, had strictly warned them as not to be fooled by those loafers, and he told them not to hand over the money until the confessional papers are given to them. Meanwhile, Mr. Osman Al-Taib and the nurse Zakia are waiting in Omar's house for their return. The old man is lying on a bed and beside him is sitting his mouthpiece. Omar is drinking beer and smoking. A tape recorder is playing some favorite songs of Omar. In the kitchen the maidservant and the mother are busy preparing the lunch for the wealthy business tycoon and his beautiful private secretary. At noon the peaceful atmosphere is disturbed by heavy knocking on the outside door. The mother approached the door running. "Who is there?" shouted the mother. "Police," shouted the knocker harshly. "What do you want?" said the mother with stammering words. "Open the door. We are women here, and there is no man in the house. I will count from 1 to 10 and if you don't open the door we will force it open." There is no response from inside, so the counting began. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The frightened mother opened the door and stood aside to see the knocker. Immediately 5 policemen and 3 young men and a young beautiful girl entered the house. The policemen scattered in different directions in search for the notorious criminal Al-Sahir. The first person that is found is the notorious criminal himself. He is hiding under a bed. The policemen dragged him out and handcuffed him. When Mona saw him, she shouted loudly that he is one of her kidnappers. She shored his face with kicking and slapping and spitting, until the policeman pulled her away. The search is resumed again. The nurse Zakia is found hiding inside a large cupboard. She is dragged out and made to kneel beside Omar. The policeman continued the search again and the third person is discovered hiding inside the toilet. The cops knocked hard on the door, but no response. Sergeant Mohammed Abdul Nabi began to count from 1 to 10. When the counting finished and the door is not opened, he ordered his men to break it. 2 cops held each other and counted from 1 to 3 and rushed towards the door and pushed it with their shoulders. The door sprang open. The third accused is found inside the toilet shaking and trembling in fear. The cops dragged him out and forced him to kneel beside the other 2 suspects. The search is resumed once again. When no more persons are found hiding, the search stopped. The frightened mother pleaded in tears and begged the cops not to arrest her innocent and sick son. Her pleadings are ignored. The 3 suspects are handcuffed and taken to the police wagon outside the house. Many people are gathered outside the house to witness the arrest of the notorious criminal Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Gabr and the wealthy business tycoon, Mr. Osman Al-Taib, and his pretty private secretary Zakia.